Hey guys, welcome back to Danger Planet. And today we're talking all about a Sonic the Hedgehog custom fabricated infinity table. Hey guys, welcome back to Danger Planet. This is Doug, and I've got a very, very special guest with us today, Ethan. Ethan, why don't you say hello to the internet?
Hello, Internet. I am Ethan Pearson. I also go by Snowball in the Infinity community.
And Ethan has made probably the coolest table I've ever seen in 25 years of tabletop gaming. It is so awesome that when I saw images of his table, I pinged him and I was like, "Hey man, can we get you on Danger Planet to talk about how you did this thing?" I don't want to bury the lead or get too far into it, but why don't we start at the beginning? Ethan, why don't you give the folks on the World Wide Web here a little bit of background on yourself, how you got into tabletop gaming, and most importantly, how you found your way into the Infinity community.
Yeah. Well, I found my way into tabletop gaming after playing, all the MechWarrior games like MechWarrior 2 and 3, and discovering that later on it is a tabletop game. I was like, well, I want to do all this stuff. And so I did that at a super young age, kind of got into Warhammer 40,000, played Necrons, but just like in garage settings, never at a game store. Got older and moved to Texas and found a community out there that played Battletech, and then we eventually branched off into Infinity back in 2014 near the tail end of N2, or second edition if you don't know. And
Yeah, so
yep, go ahead.
I was gonna say you've been playing Infinity for a good bit.
Yeah, I think February was 9 years now.
Almost a decade, man. That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
it is definitely a lot of fun. And I was a decent painter before all that stuff, and then once I got into Infinity, I was like, I gotta do this stuff justice. I started learning a bit more technique, talking to people, going to big tournaments that multiple states come to. We call dire state events.
And you guys are you still in Texas right now? Is that where your home base is?
So actually, I moved back to Utah. This is where my family's from.
And so that's where you're gaming out of, at least in person?
Yes, that's where I'm playing in person, and that's where I had the big debut of the Sonic table. It was a dire state event called Salt Lake Showdown. We had 66 people this year.
And obviously it was a coordinated event where every single level of Sonic the Hedgehog was represented across that, right? Only Sonic the Hedgehog tables at that event?
Oh, I have plans to overrun the entire event with just Sonic the Hedgehog, but
Amazing.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get to the meat and potatoes of this.
All right.
How the heck did you come up with the idea for this project? This project is quite the thing, and I'm assuming there was something that led up to you being like, I'm gonna do this. How did we get there?
So it was a very long process, to say the least. I definitely like having my own tables. After seeing all these other tables from these bigger events, I was like, I want to do something myself. So it just 2015, 2016, made my own table that was just pretty generic, but I left some Easter eggs in there. I had some crates that just had the Eggman logo on it and stuff, and everyone's like, oh, that's awesome. But I unfortunately don't have any more pictures of all that stuff. And basically ever since then, I've been wanting to do some kind of video game themed table. And the big ones that always come to my mind is I'm a big Halo fan, so it's what can I do as a Halo table? But everything was just very handcrafted that I wanted to do and didn't have the means to do it yet.
Yeah.
And yeah. And
then
also, go ahead.
I would say Halo feels a little bit more like it fits into the Infinity universe, whereas I think the coolest thing about this Sonic table you did was that it's just so unique and it has its own vibe immediately. Any player that has played chemical plant level will walk by this and be like, oh snap, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's actually why I chose the chemical plant zone, because it's probably one of the most iconic levels in the game, aside from Green Hill Zone.
Yeah, that's probably true. Plus, you can put in so I was looking through all these pictures, and I tried to write down all the different things you did. And I've got custom LED wiring. I've got super immaculately clean hazard stripes all over the entire table. I don't know how you got those clean hazard stripes over the entire thing. You made custom Robotnik decals that you called out a little bit before. Those might have been an iteration of the stuff you had on that before. And then I saw screenshots of 3D printable design things. Like there's I don't know if you did it this way, and this is going to lead into the next question, but it looks like you used LED. It looks like you used 3D printing. I'm sure you used like an airbrush or something like that. And then on top of that, a bunch of other stuff I'm sure that I don't know about. So tell us, how did you go through this process? Walk us through all the different technologies you used. Walk us through how everything pieced together.
Yeah, so yeah, I have everything that you talked about. So I got 2 3D printers. I've become a 3D print enthusiast. And it's like if you can imagine something, you can make it. It's great. I love it. I'm still learning a lot of 3D design. So I actually had a friend of mine commission the loop that you see there. That was the main driving factor to getting this table done. And everything else I've basically just kind of kit bashed together from existing 3D files off of like STL sites like Thingiverse and Mini Factory and stuff like that.
Nice. So you went in, you found some files that you liked, and then you did some splicing in like Blender or something like that, basically.
Yeah, I did all that stuff. Or like, for example, like all of those chemical vats that you see. I got a pair of calipers. Like in real life, I'm an electrical engineer and I work on aircraft, so I actually have a lot of fine-tuned like measuring devices.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so I was able to like get like the outside diameter of like these vials that I found just off of Amazon, and carved a hole down the middle of some of this stuff and just slapped it right in there, and it just worked.
How do you power? Help me understand how many. First question: how many LEDs are on this board?
So each of these small chemical vials have a single LED. And I didn't do anything special with them. I just went onto Amazon and found like those little balloon LEDs I could put inside the balloon, then fill them up and release them into the air. And those just were powered off of watch batteries. And I just measured the outside diameter of that. I got a drill press at home, so once I actually made this stuff, I just took that to the drill press and made sure I had the right dimensions and slapped those in there. So everything is battery powered.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I wasn't sure if everything was individually powered or if you had fed everything into like a central like Raspberry Pi or something that was under the board.
I had ideas to do something like that on the big chemical on the big loop itself. I wanted to have like anti-collision lights flashing on it and stuff, but the time frame that I was giving myself to have this complete, I really couldn't engineer that in time. So a few things had to get the cutting block. So
yeah, I mean, always like that with a huge complex project like this, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially when you gotta make a deadline. This thing was in the work for probably close to 15, 16 months from the time I decided to actually do a Sonic theme table. Because before I did this design, I was thinking more of like, okay, let's do something Destiny wise. I had a spare Mars mat, and I was looking on. I was like, okay, well, you got the whole Braytech facility on Mars and Destiny. I was like, some people know what this is, and I just kind of sputtered out like around COVID. Like I was like, I don't want to do this, and it just kind of sat there.
Was a big motivating factor for you. So part of the reason why this was on my radar immediately was I actually had seen this table like a day after we posted our terrain and tabletop boards in Infinity video. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. Like, this is so cool. And my thought was, which is kind of novel to me, is how Infinity players often have a personal table. And when they go to a tournament, like either a local tournament or like maybe a shorter travel tournament, often Infinity players, at least in the Boston community I've seen, or in the Northeast community, will bring their own personal table to help fill out a tournament room, right?
Oh yeah.
Which is unique for me, right? That's not something I've seen as much in other game systems. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong here, because you've been playing a lot more Infinity than I have. I'm brand new to N4. I'm coming in from an outsider's perspective, but I think that that's really cool because not only do the players show up with their own armies, but they also show up with a table that is often a good reflection of their own hobby brain space, right? Which I think is kind of what we're seeing here. This is a deeply personal reflection of like what Ethan Pearson views as like the dopest level in Sonic, right? And you want to share that.
For sure.
You want to share that with the other folks that are playing Infinity with you, which I think is so cool. That's unique to the Infinity system for me. And I kind of feel like part of the reasoning for that is that in Infinity you just need so much terrain. So is it like it's kind of a function of both probably personalization of the player, but also maybe necessity, because it's hard for TOs to have 20 tables worth of Infinity stuff, basically. Is that fair?
Oh yeah, for sure. You know, I go to Adepticon all the time. I travel to different dire states events where you have, 60, 70, sometimes I've seen some tournaments go above 100 people and you have 50 full fleshed out tables like in a single room, and it's amazing. And yeah, it's people just like, driving halfway across the nation with, entire, truck bed full of totes that's just full of MDF or scratch built terrain or whatever you can think of.
Yeah. And so how do you transport this thing so that it doesn't break? I'd be super paranoid about that.
Yep. So luckily it's actually very durable, but I still worry about the paint chipping. I mostly just wrap everything in bubble wrap, and I have a very specific way I want to have this sit inside like a big, like 3-foot wide tote.
Nice.
And yeah, so I'll stack it up in a certain way. Usually people will come over and ask if I want a hand, and it's like, if they can either follow my directions or just let me do it, please.
Yeah. I'd rather have myself be the one that breaks this than person XYZ. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel
like,
that.
Yeah, especially the rails on the loop definitely have a couple of cracks in them. One of them busted loose at the tournament, so I had to super glue it all back together. It's always a good idea to have a spare bottle of super glue at these things.
Yeah, 100%, because you never know when you're gonna have to do some on-site repairing. So in a big project like this, there's so many elements that you're bringing together. You're using lots of different technologies, like we talked about. It's kind of a multi-part question. What was your favorite part to execute as a project? And then on the flip side of that, what was the thing that maybe surprised you from a difficulty standpoint, or what were some hurdles that you ran into while you were making this table, and how did you overcome those?
For me, really, it was just the patience of it. I knew that the caution stripes were going to suck a lot. I think I clocked in at 25 hours in just masking for the black. So whenever I did that, I spray painted, or I airbrushed the yellow down first, and then I masked everything off. Then I did the black, and then I masked it again to do the rest of the building in that grade that you see. But yeah, that first little masking step on everything was about 25 hours.
Dude, you have the patience of a saint, my friend. Oh my God, I couldn't imagine doing that. My ADHD would take over my hobby brain, and I would just be like, we're doing battle damage hazard stripes. Everything's getting stippled. And I would just, oh.
Yeah, so in fact, my biggest hurdle was pulling the tape off of some of the stuff and actually having the paint go with it, where I did have to, compromise with some battle damage.
Yeah, you hold your breath. I know that feeling, man. You hold your breath as you're pulling the tape, and you're just like, "Oh, please have this work." No chipping, no chipping. Yeah.
Especially where you feel like you let it sit long enough, it's cured long enough, and then you go to pull the tape off, and like a tiny little corner rips off. You're like, "Oh."
Yeah, exactly.
Especially near the end of a project where it's like you can't go back over it, and it's like, "Oh, I just gotta keep going. What can I improvise with?"
Well, dude, it looks amazing. So for any little chip or imperfection that you can see as the creator, the overall impression of this thing, at least to me, and I'm sure many others when they see this video, it's So cool, man. I think it's always, and I've done a couple of these types of big projects, but nothing that's as well executed as this. But I always, when I finish my project, my eyes and my brain just go to the little things that I think I could have done better, and I sometimes lose the general impression. And I show it to someone, I'm like, man, don't look at that one little part, and then they're just like, wow, this is cool, you know, and they're not even thinking about that little chip on the inside of the left ring or something like that, you know.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, like, we're always our biggest critiques.
Yeah, especially when, I mean, you said this took 15 months. I mean, you poured your heart and soul into this, man, which is so cool to see. I guess as kind of like a tail end closer for this thing, for maybe hobbyists that want to try to do something like this, right? Like you said, this project took you more than a year. Do you have any lessons learned or advice for somebody that wants to take on a huge big project like this, in terms of, like, you know, maybe it's their first time actually trying to undertake this? And a lot of people, you know, they've never even tried to build a train table, and it's very stress inducing for them because they don't know where to start. You know, what would you say to those types of people?
Oh yeah, it definitely is overwhelming when you step back and think about a full 4x4 table, you know, using the amount of terrain that a game like Infinity wants you to have. And I would honestly say, the way that I did it, I started with just a single building, just to, as like a proof of concept, making sure that, you know, I'm on the right track. You know, one building, one piece of scatter, just to see how everything all looked. And then from that point, I would honestly say, don't cut any corners if you don't want to go back and redo anything. Like with the masking on the loop specifically, I try to cut corners with the liquid mask latex stuff, and it turned out to be a bigger issue than I was hoping it was going to be.
Oh, dude, I've had nothing but bad luck with like the Vallejo liquid mask. I use painted tape as much as I can, and then if I have an irregular shape, I'll try to use like a putty or something like that to fill it out, what's that? Comes in the egg. And
yep, silly putty.
Yeah, I use silly putty and painter's tape basically for most of my masking stuff now. I've had too many disasters with Vallejo masking because, well, I found like it needs to stay on for a specific amount of time. If it's too short or too long, it can cause problems. It's really annoying.
Yep, it'll start to adhere and seep into the paint and just rip everything apart.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So I mean, I guess, what's on the table for you next? Do you have any big terrain projects or anything crazy like this that's coming up or that you're working on right now?
Well, as a matter of fact, I do have a plan, and I've already started collecting materials for it, and I'm going to get a prototype proof of concept going for that right now. And that is basically another Sonic table, and this one's going to be Green Hill Zone.
Nice. That's
so
awesome.
So, you know, I'm just trading out the caution stripes for a crap ton of checkerboard.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now here's the $1 million question, right? Because, you know, we're all nerds. You seem like a very intelligent nerd to have been able to pull this off. What are the lessons learned from your chemical plant table that you're going to maybe try to iterate on or take with you to the Green Hills? And are you going to try anything new with this Green Hills table?
Yeah, I think with the Green Hill table, I'm going to most likely do it all scratch built, because it's a very, like, you look at concept art, it's a very organic level. So I was probably going to do a lot of foam core with that. I haven't messed with foam core that much, but there's plenty of videos out there on how to make it work, make it look like rock, how to seal it so it doesn't melt when you start painting it.
You know who does a lot of good stuff with foam core? That might be, you check out Black Magic Craft. He does a lot of good. Yep. I'm sure you already know about that guy. So.
Yep, I have a couple of his videos saved as to always go back to.
Yeah. So it sounds like basically you're gonna try this one a little bit more like handmade, I guess, would be the thing. Anything you're designing from like a resin print perspective or any key feature? Like, what about those little I like the bees from Green Hill, like the little robot bees.
You know, I thought about doing some badniks. That could be really fun to add in. I have a animal container STL file that I'm going to print for it. I got a couple of the rope bridges. another thing I was thinking is like, okay, Infinity wants to be very vertical, so how can I implement verticality without breaking immersion? So I was like, okay, I could probably do some like hanging vines that infer a like a ladder, or I could just make jump pads and have someone stand on a jump pad, and now you're at the top.
Here's a spicy idea. Make the jump pads functional, so when they put a model on it, it launches it into the air.
Oh, I've had ideas like that already. So you have the speed platforms.
Yeah, the go fast platforms, as I like to call them, the gotta go fast platforms.
Yeah, I just got to make sure that they'll do something like the Hot Wheels speed boosters, but for models, and you just start yeeting models across the room.
Nice, that's awesome. So I mean, hopefully once you finish that one, you'll allow us to jump back on and maybe do a recap of that guy. Do you have anything that you want to plug? Anything going on with your local community? Anything that you do digitally? Anything going on in the world of Ethan Pearson in terms of tabletop or hobby that you want to just mention?
Well, I'm a pretty secluded person. I don't really, post my stuff online as like an official like studio sort of stuff. I just, follow the Infinity online gaming community on Facebook, and I post most of my stuff in there as I see fit. With the Sonic table, most of the buildings are actually made by Wildland Terrains. They're based out of Ukraine, and the owner is a really awesome guy, and he's been ecstatic seeing this thing already. So definitely support him if you definitely want some terrain needs. And other than that, I don't got much of anything else going on.
I mean, well, you build some killer tables, I'll tell you that much. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Ethan. I hope this was an okay interview and I wasn't, too annoying to deal with here. I really enjoyed having you on. I think when people see this thing, their reaction is going to be the same as mine, which is, holy crap, that is amazing. And I will try to do my best for the internet at large. When Ethan finishes his next Sonic table, you better believe there's going to be a follow-up video on this if he allows there to be one. So thank you so much, Ethan, for coming on. Thank you for allowing us to share this process with you. Thank you for explaining how you did it. And man, this is so cool.
It was definitely a passion project. I knew it was gonna make some ripples in the community. I just didn't realize it was gonna go this far.
I mean, dude, you did a great job. You spent a really long time on it, and your execution level was immaculate. So, congrats, man. This is so fucking cool. Like, you really did a really good job. All right, well, I guess the only thing we have to do left is just to say goodbye to the internet. So, Ethan, go ahead, say goodbye to the internet.
All right, goodbye, the internet.
Goodbye, the internet. If you guys like our Infinity content, we're going to keep having a bunch more. You can join us in our Discord. Definitely check out the different online resources. Infinity has a big TTS community, as well as a handful of really cool Discords. What's the one that you probably spend the most time in terms of the Infinity Discords, Ethan?
I mostly spend time in my own personal Utah Discord. It's just Utah Infinity. There's a couple other podcasts, Infinity podcasts that I'm in. It's like Metachemistry and a couple other game stores, but mostly I kind of stay to myself though.
All right, well, perfect. Well, you might get some more attention on this one. In fact, I'm sure you will. So thank you again for joining us.
As long as it inspires.
This is definitely inspiring. Thank you again for joining us. And you guys will see some more stuff for Ethan as he does it, because I'm going to be watching and annoying him to come back on the channel. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and we'll see you next time on Danger Planet.